Endo, are you sure that you're ready?
I hate him.
No, I'm fucking with you. I'm good. I'm ready to go.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Tougies Take podcast. It is us, the guys, the fellas, your hockey friends that you hear from on a somewhat weekly basis, because, boy, this year have we had some bad damn luck when it comes to illness.
Mm-hmm.
I've had my own battles with COVID and bronchitis, and then Mr. Sim for the win. You've had your own misfortunes.
Yeah, I finally got COVID. At least confirmed COVID. I might have had it in the January pre-pandemic. Who knows? But yeah, it was. You can still hear my voice a little bit. Still recovering because I coughed myself hoarse. Yeah, it was interesting, like a speed run. First day, night, it was a horrid fever. And then next day, the fever was almost gone, still had chills. And then all the other symptoms kick in, like sinus, not so much of a cough. And then the next day, the cough started, and that just lingered for so many days.
Yeah, you were texting me pretty much every day. I was checking in on you, and you're like, well, this symptom's gone, but now here's this one. And I'm like, yes, I remember this well.
It was like a speed run of COVID.
Yeah.
But then it lasted longer than I thought it was, because I started feeling better like nearly immediately, which was trippy. Like I started like physically feeling pretty good. It was just the cough after like 2 days, and then it still took the rest of the week to go away. What the fuck is happening?
We're just going to ignore him for those of you on the video side. Enjoy whatever the hell Endo's doing currently.
Yeah. It's my thing's glitched then. It's not supposed to show that at all. What the fuck?
Well, I'm glad things are going well for you.
Great.
But yeah, basically, between you and I both being sick on and off this year, like our consistent schedule has completely evaporated. But hey, we're gonna make up for it today in terms of talking about a hell of a lot of hockey, because the playoffs have been incredibly exciting.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to kick things off by talking about two non-playoff teams, both being represented in terms of apparel being worn on the video side of things. But we are going to start it off with good news for Sin.
The Sens? Oh, shit. Okay. I got a cough drop in. I'm trying to finish it off before.
Well, hey, we can start off with the Sens then.
Yeah,
why not?
please.
Because there's not too much to talk about with them. Two main things, though, going on with Ottawa right now. That being, it is expected. The news still hasn't come down yet today. Waiting for that. But at the time of recording, the Sens have a couple hours left to decide if they will forfeit their 2024 first round pick or push the decision to either 2025 or 2026 due to the invalidated Evgeny Dodonov trade, which is still bizarre that even happened in the first place. I can't imagine they're going to surrender said pick, given that they have, if I'm not mistaken, the 7th overall pick now this year.
I wouldn't surrender it.
I don't think they're going to be giving up that pick this year.
Just surrender the 26. Like, you should be a playoff team by then.
I agree.
As we've been saying for 3 years.
But will they be with head coach Travis Green, who is all but official now at this point? He has been confirmed the head coach of this team. It's really funny because the Ottawa Senators website, the homepage, looks like this, where it's Chris Phillips working a McDonald's drive-thru.
Hell
as
yeah.
the main picture, and then below that in a smaller image is just, we got our guy Travis Green. So I don't know what to make of that, but they got their guy at the end of the day. Travis Green is an interesting one. It's a 4-year contract for him through 2027, 2028. And in terms of his history, he was the head coach of the Vancouver Canucks from 2017 until the midway point in 2022. Goes to New Jersey For the rest of 2023-24, he was promoted on March 4th from associate coach to head coach for the Devils at the end of the season, which I still don't even remember happening, to be honest.
Yeah.
And now he's been named the head coach of the Ottawa Senators, which, you know, it on occasion, like we always talk about the idea of, okay, coaches repeatedly getting opportunities, but there is the theory out there of, okay, it can take some coaches a kick or two at the can to see if they are actually,
especially if they're younger. And Travis Green's younger, right?
for an NHL coach, kind of. Travis Green is 53 years old.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, I mean, you got to figure he played. He was drafted in the second round of the 1989 draft.
Wow. But I mean, Vancouver was his first head coaching gig, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So this is essentially his second full coaching gig. Maybe it works. But to me, this is kind of like Travis Green, DJ Smith, Spider-Man pointing at each other meme.
Yeah. I think that's the way a lot of people feel about it. So it was worth mentioning at the very least because it's been, 17, 18 head coaching changes in like less than 2 years. The NHL has gone insane in regards to that. And then the opposite end, or the other side of the coin, I should say, is you have all these changes in this regard, but no changes in regards to the NHL draft lottery, which we were hoping to do a live stream for yesterday on Sin's birthday, no less, where good news was delivered.
Mm-hmm.
For the first time in franchise history, the San Jose Sharks have the number 1 overall pick in a draft where for the first time in 14 years, there was no lottery movement whatsoever.
As it should be.
Now, see, I feel the same damn way about that.
Like, you're never going to get rid of tanking. Everyone wants a top 3 pick. Like, you're not ever going to get rid of tanking. Like, but whatever. Let the NHL do its thing.
To me, a lottery system just keeps bad teams bad.
That's what I feel like.
Like, if you look at the, kind of the standings over subsequent years, let's go back to 2018-19, just arbitrary. And you look at who was bad. I mean, it was the Ottawa Senators finishing dead last. If they have a number 1 overall pick in their midst, are they a playoff team 5 years later? Right about now? Potentially. It certainly helps their chances.
Yeah.
You have the LA Kings, who were 30th that year. They obviously made the playoffs this year. Then the Devils, who have been very up and down. Detroit, who constantly feels like they're kind of hard-pressed by the draft lottery. But I don't know. At the end of the day, I am perfectly fine with NFL-style screw the draft lottery. I just couldn't care less. But enough about the draft lottery itself. Let's talk about the result. Macklin Sharkabrini. You are a San Jose Shark.
Oh man, yeah. I'm gonna be real with you guys. I couldn't watch the drawing. I got my hopes up way too much after spending months and months and months trying to temper my expectations.
And I was all of last year too with Bedard.
Yeah. I think I had some PTSD from that. And the fact of the matter is, like, I don't have high hopes we're gonna win. We're in the 4 spot. Like, that's low chance. Just don't give it to Chicago. That's all we wanted. And we all kind of knew it was going to go to Chicago. And lo and behold, they jump up from 2-1, I think.
Yeah. Lo and behold, more like a lol and behold.
Yeah, lol and behold. Yeah, my buddy's a Ducks fan, and he was like, yeah, that was just... that was expected.
It was a rough year for Ducks fans anyway, because they expected to be better than they were, as a lot of teams did. But then you have San Jose, who were the clear-cut worst team in the league.
Yeah, it wasn't close.
If they lose the lottery and fall to the 3rd overall pick, Then you talk about missing out on the clear-cut number one pick of this draft. And, obviously you can still get a phenomenal player third overall, but the difference that it can make to get a guy who by some metrics is trending at a similar pace to Connor Bedard.
That's kind of nuts. I didn't really think that. I consider him an elite / possible franchise centerman, but yeah, having him near Bedard is kind of crazy. But I'll take it.
For as much as you believe in like comparison trends for players pre-draft years and subsequently after, but you're talking about a guy who does not turn 18 years old until June 13th. He just played an entire season for Boston University, where he had 64 points in 38 games with 32 goals.
Oh, man.
At 17 years old throughout the entire year.
High schooler in college, literally.
It's insane. Like, it's absolutely insane. The only people that outscored him in the NCAA this year, and NCAA scoring was
up
crazy this year. That's the best way to put it, because in the past with the NCAA, there were seasons a decade ago where, you were talking about Johnny Gaudreau and what he accomplished. He had 51 points in 35 games. You're talking about these guys approaching 70 points. The top scorers in the NCAA this year were Macklin Sharkabrini at 64 points in 38 games. Second place, Cutter Gauthier, 65 points in 41. And number one in scoring in the NCAA, Will Smith.
Will Smith, huh? Let me do some research on him. What team drafted
Fresh Prince
Will?
himself.
Oh, he's a Shark. Let's fucking go. 1A, 1B. Oh, man, I'm so stoked. Or at least 1C, 2C. But
dude, 71 points in 41 games for Will Smith after being the 4th overall pick last year. Things are looking damn good for the Sharks already.
Yeah, and you need good centermen. And the fact that we have two of them, like in back-to-back drafts, is really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, you're literally talking about, like, okay, what was the mold for the Sharks' success? Thornton and Marleau.
Yeah.
And then obviously that evolved into, they have Couture, and then they have Pavelski, and it's like, Jesus Christ, the amount of people that they can run at center is crazy. And, right now, you look at that Sharks roster, and it's like, okay, what are they missing? If you can push Will Smith to the 2C, then you're cooking. And they have that now with Celebrini. I mean, the NHL wasn't even trying to hide it last night, right? Like, that was like, oh yeah, this kid's going first overall. Like, it's not even a question.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate them being like, oh, but here's Cole Yzerman. He might go. Like, no, they didn't even bother, which is
He's
great.
like dropped out of the top 10 in rankings. Like, we might get him at 14. That's crazy.
That's the other factor is that, the Sharks have the 14th pick. But talking about the guys down the middle, I mean, it's Logan Couture, who's probably not going anywhere.
Well, he might not even play hockey again.
That's true. Meaning like Thomas Bordelot and Philip Beestead.
Beestead was always middle 6 ceiling.
Right.
If he turns into a 3C for us, like, that's incredible. Right. Bordelot can play wing if he needs to.
They needed Macklin Sharkabrini so badly. Absolutely. Like left wing side, William Eklund, Quentin Musty. They still have some work to do on that right hand side. Defensively, on paper at least, they don't have the franchise caliber defenseman.
No.
They have some work cut out for them. But at the end of the day, to get an elite level player, again, depending on what metric you look at, potentially generational is the pace that he's on after a season like that. It's just such a gigantic win for the Sharks that they so desperately needed.
Yes. And the thing with Eklund is, like, he could play center. We saw him play center. He was a natural centerman at one point in his career. I like him so much better on the wing. He looked good playing center at times. Like, he looked really comfortable there. But again, this is a good problem to have. You want too many guys who can play center. You want too many guys who can take faceoffs, etc., so forth. Like, for cup winning teams, you have to be strong down the middle. I mean, think about the last couple cup winners, really. You think of Colorado, McKinnon, they had Kadri at the time. Can't remember who else they had down the middle, but I mean, Vegas, obviously. You had Eichel, Carlson, Stevenson, who came out of nowhere to be a solid, at least middle six guy, but he was playing top line at times. Like, those good cup-winning teams have always really been strong down the middle.
Yeah, I'm looking at that Avs playoff roster, and that was for 2023. I knew something was off. On that 2022 team, down the middle, they had McKinnon, Kadri, Helm, Newhook, Nico Sturm. So, I mean, a really strong 1-2, and then defensively responsible 3 and 4, depending on where Newhook was playing, if they were playing him on the wing.
I'm trying to think of what Tampa had at the time. They obviously had Point. Stamkos, who could play middle, but he has more wing.
Yeah, in terms of that
Hagel?
Tampa team, because why not?
Since
we're already here.
I'm trying to prove my point here about strong C's.
Well, I mean, I think most people know it, right? Like, I mean, the Bruins don't win 65 games last year if they don't have Bergeron and Krejci down the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tampa, Jesus Christ, the amount of listed centers on that Tampa Cup winning team, their most recent one, Stamkos, Point, Kaloran, Johnson, Gord, Colton, Coleman, and Cirelli, all potentially options down the middle.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. So, it's a celebration for the Sharks. It's a beautiful
precious
day.
Little to celebrate. We need.
On the other hand, the last time we did a show, the first round was ongoing. It no longer is. We're off to round 2, and we'll talk about the matchups that we haven't gotten a chance to talk about at the very end. And what better way to start than by the Boston Bruins eliminating the Toronto Maple Leafs in overtime of Game 7. David Pastrnak likely ending what should be the last hurrah for the Leafs core, but how many times has that been said? There was an article shared from 2021 from TSN talking about how that should have been the last hurrah. We're still here. They're still here, but perhaps only momentarily.
Maybe.
As, again, we'll talk about the Bruins, but for the Leafs, there's just been, a half a week's worth, a little bit over that now, of eulogizing, of pointing the fingers, who's at fault, and so much more. It feels like at this point we're late to that party in terms of like everything that could have been said about the Toronto Maple Leafs has been said, and now we're just waiting to see what happens next.
What's interesting to me is that the management media availability, which got pushed back, by the way, it includes Brendan Shanahan. So to me, this just feels like they're going to run it back. Maybe they get rid of Keefe, but like if Shanahan is still at the helm, he's not gonna. I don't think he's gonna want to trade any of them. He seems to be content with just trying to push through, and he seems to be buying in way too much to what Mr. Captain John Tavares is buying in, where it's like, oh, we're so close. But it's like, no, you're close to winning round 1. Like you still have 3 other rounds to win to be the champions. Like you're nowhere close. It doesn't matter if you think your next opponent's going to be easier. First of all, it wasn't going to be this year. It's going to be fucking Florida.
In theory, every round you advance to, that opponent is more difficult to beat.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't understand that logic from the captain especially, but seemingly throughout management of like, oh, we're right there. You're not. Right. You got to round 2 twice. And
once.
you got fucking... That's once. What I mean. Yeah, sorry. You got to round 2 once. And you got fucking bullied.
Endo, as a somewhat disengaged Leafs fan, is it even more so now? Are you just like, whatever, Leafs, whatever?
I've got my boss, who is a Winnipeg Jets fan, chirping me in the car rides in the morning about how the Leafs suck. It's great. I love it.
A Jets fan? That's
yeah. He's a Winnipeg Jets fan. I don't know. He's a weird guy, but he pays me good money. So you know what? I let him I let him say whatever he wants about the Leafs. I don't know what's going on with this team. In terms of, the new president of the new CEO essentially of MLSE is a very big sports guy. So maybe he's letting them run it back one more time. There was supposed to be an interview, like a team meeting, a team press conference. I think it was supposed to be either today, but it was moved to Friday. And it's confirmed to have all three members, as in Shanahan, the new president of MLSE, and Keefe's going to be there. So we don't know what's going to happen. I think it's going to be a moment where it's believed to basically go, we're a team, and we believe in the team that we have here, and we see a repeat of what happened with Ottawa, and they just completely fuck up entirely. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do. I can't speculate what they're gonna do either, because the more I want to speculate about what they could do and what they should do, they don't do it. So maybe it's like one last hurrah with, contracts aging, and they decide, oh, we have a bunch of people who have to resign. We're not going to sign those contracts until we figure out if this team can actually play and earn their money. I saw someone, I think it was Sportsnet or The Score, was talking about, this is now the accountability era of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I'm like, what do you mean the accountability era? The accountability era started when you gave these guys these bridge deals and told them, hey, here's some money right now. You play well and earn your spot and earn your keep and get yourself a trophy or somewhere in the playoffs. Then we can keep you accountable and we can reward you for that. Instead of done the exact opposite, they've had players play amazing and then give them a bunch of fucking money, and then when they have to show up come playoff time, they don't, or they just underperform into ways that we haven't seen players underperform ever. There's some people who want to liken this to, the Washington Capitals, who, couldn't get out of the first round for a while, and eventually they did, and they won a fucking cup with Ovi. But that's a different team and a whole different makeup of a roster. Like the Toronto Maple Leafs have on paper, again, always on paper, they have the best firepower in the league. And every single year, they don't show up, and the people who show up are the guys who are making league minimum. It's always the league minimum guys. Matthew Knies was probably the best player in that series, hands down. He has grown from being maybe like a two-way player to like a legit power forward. Willing to take on guys on Boston, willing to go up against literally anybody, throw hits whenever, get into the corners and all that stuff. When it comes to his contract next season, it's going to be really, really fun because he's going to want some money. And whoop-de-doo, Toronto might not have any money because they got to pay Marner. They got to pay Tavares because his contract's up next year. And everyone wants a hometown discount. I don't believe in that shit. I believe everyone's going to try and milk the dollar as much as they can because they've done it previously. That's my mini rant. That's everything that I've got going on with the Leafs.
They are in such a weird spot as they are every year. In terms of Sheldon Keefe, he has an extension that's about to kick in. This was supposed to be the last year of his deal, but he signed an extension on August 30th of last year for 2 more years. We'll see if he sees that through. He's been the head coach of the team for almost 4.5 years now.
Here's the thing. I'm going to jump in right here and say it. If Sheldon Keefe doesn't bring the Toronto Maple Leafs into the top 5 of the NHL standings next year, kick him out. Get rid of him. I don't care. That's regular season success. We've had it for this entire tenure. They've been good in the regular season. They need to be the best fucking team out there because those players are some of the best players in the league. But when it comes to have things go in, it just doesn't happen. Austin Matthews missed a couple games. William Nylander missed a couple games. When Austin was gone, that team stepped up like they haven't seen them before. I noticed it last season when Matthews had to step out for an injury and he had his wrist bothering him, whatever the fuck it was. That team stepped up. You have players who were, projected to play certain roles, actually play those roles. Max Domi was absolutely insane in the face-off dot for games 5 and 6. Game 7, put him back on the third fucking line. He didn't do anything all game. No offense to Max. They just have, again, they have too much depth in terms of having too many people in spots where there could be other players. Am I saying to trade Matthews? No. Am I saying to trade so-and-so? No. It just seems like people go to Toronto. Well, Toronto has this title where everyone can go there, but then you're going to be a third-line player or a fourth-line player not going to play the games. Nick Robertson was pulled out of the Game 7 lineup as well. That's one thing for your agent, bless you. That's one thing for your agent to say, he spent the entire year begging to play in the NHL. When he showed up, he showed up. And then in Game 7, in the pivotal moment, you take him out of the lineup. And in Games 5 and Game 6, he played absolutely pretty stellar for a guy who never played in the Stanley Cup playoffs before. I'm more concerned about my favorite players finding a place to play outside of Toronto. That's basically what it's been for the past couple of years for me. Because I put a tweet out a couple of days ago talking about all the top players, all the players through the farm system that have gone on to other places and had better success. Mason Marshman, Sean Dursey, Trevor Moore. Let me see what else. Pierre Engvall. Hey, he's averaging the same amount of points he did over with the Islanders. Rasmus Sandin had a little bit of an off year, but he's get the money that he deserved over there as well too. Also, Justin Brazeau, who was a project player with the Marlies because no one wanted to sign to an NHL contract because he wasn't fast enough. Worked with Barb Underhill, who was a skating coach with the Marlies at the time. Developed his skills. Didn't pan out with the Marlies. Goes over the Providence Bruins. Plays with Maine for a season and a half. Makes the NHL roster off of having an AHL deal. Signs a 2-year contract. Scores his first fucking goal in the playoffs. Fucking hell.
In regards to Sheldon Keefe, if he is fired, these are some of the top candidates with NHL coaching experience out there.
David Quinn.
We'll get to him. Obviously, there is the option of going AHL college route or the certainly less traveled Europe route, which does not happen in terms of top Liga SHL coaches. Just doesn't happen. So top candidates out there. Jay Woodcroft, who was sacked earlier this year after a 3-9-1 start to the Edmonton Oilers season. He is being rumored for the Sharks job. That comes from a Sportsnet article at the end of April.
He was a former Sharks coach, just not a head one.
Dean Evison, former coach of the Minnesota Wild, who was let go after a 5-10-4 start earlier this season. He was stellar with Minnesota in the regular season, 147, 77, and 27. However, in the playoffs, 8 wins, 15 losses over 4 years. It just seems like you'd be switching him and Keefe out. They have the same issue. DJ Smith, the former head coach of the Ottawa Senators, who was once an assistant coach with the Leafs before taking that head coaching job.
Come back.
Come back. Todd McClellan, who typically stays with Western teams, but who knows? Maybe he finally moves over to the East after coaching the Oilers, Sharks, and Kings. Don Granato, who has been replaced in Buffalo after 4 seasons by Lindy Ruff, who has come back to Buffalo. David Quinn, who was let go of by the Sharks. Dave Hackstall, who was just let go of by the Seattle Kraken. And probably the odds-on betting favorite, unless they were to go down the path of John Quenneville.
Peanut butter.
Unless you were to go down the... Oh, wait, not John Quenneville. That's his fucking nephew or whatever.
Joel Quenneville.
Joel Quenneville. There you go. Go John Quenneville. He's probably more deserving of a head coaching job than Joel Quenneville is at this point. If you don't go down the Joel Quenneville, disgraced former NHL head coach option, it leaves Craig Berube, who was let go of by the Blues this year. Berube was in contention for the Senators coaching job, but a lot of people were speculating that he's probably just waiting to see if the Leafs will bring him in. The Sens went with their guy in Travis Green. someone like Craig Berube, obviously it's just pure speculation at this stage. However, in terms of the style of team that he had success with in St. Louis, they had some skill players, but in a lot of ways it was physical, defensively responsible, right?
Yeah.
Like that Blues Cup winning team, for as valuable of a part as Vladimir Tarasenko was, it was more about Ryan O'Reilly, the two-way gritty leadership. It was about the physicality that Patrick Maroon, Joel Edmondson could bring to that lineup. A fucking sandpaper cheap shot artist like Braden Shen, which, hey, again, as we'll talk about with the New York Rangers here shortly, yes, I have watched Brad Marchand for his entire career. I am well aware of what a cheap shot artist looks like. Braden Shen was a cheap shot artist in that postseason, especially. When it comes to Brad Treliving and the type of team that he tried to build this year, that fits a Craig Berube style team. You brought in Tyler Bertuzzi. You brought in Max Domi. Defensively, you went with Joel Edmondson, Simon Benoit, Ilya Lyubushkin. It does seem like a good fit, although, again, the top heaviness of the team for the Leafs, every single member of the Big Four, the core four, whatever, is going to be making at least $10.9 million next year. All of them have no movement clauses. My thought, Craig Berube is going to be the head coach of this team. They run it back with the core four for one more year until John Tavares and Mitch Marner's deals are up at the end of the year.
Yeah.
It's just very difficult to imagine, like, who the hell's taking John Tavares? Nobody. You're not trading Matthews or Nylander. They were your two best performers in the playoffs, you could argue. Yep. It's Marner who would go. And that's a very difficult trade to pull off, even if, the word's out there about like, oh, Marner kind of wants to go or he'd be prepared to go. It's still a difficult trade to pull off because the conversation of fair value and the optics. The Leafs are constantly battling optics anyway. If you do not get what is perceived as a steal, you're going to be roasted for it. A fair value trade for Mitch Marner still gets you roasted, even though it's more likely you get a less than fair value deal, because even though you're dealing a great player, well, why are you dealing him? He gets paid too much and doesn't perform in the playoffs. Well, then why the fuck am I, as an opposing GM, going to give up that much and help you out if I'm helping you alleviate $11 million worth of cap and getting a guy who can't perform in the playoffs off of your team?
If the Leafs and their management can accept the fact that you're not going to win a Marner trade, you get fucking assets back and understand that the best thing that you're getting is cap space.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it can't be understated how important cap space is. Clearly, like we've seen it time and time again with the Leafs, where they just don't have enough cap space to insulate and provide the right amount of support. I think if he's willing to waive, no matter like kind of where, just you got to do it. Like, it's not working. Mm-hmm. It's clearly not working, and that's too much money to have locked up in a single player he's just not a playoff player right now, and I don't know if he ever will be. He's 27 now.
Yeah.
He's a perimeter style player. He doesn't drive the net. He plays around the edges, and that's not where goals are going to be scored in the playoffs. Look what the Bruins did. They're just like, yeah, sure. We'll give you the perimeter all day. You're not getting the middle of the ice. And they couldn't. The entire series, the Leafs struggled to get the middle of the ice.
He doesn't shoot. He puts up a ton of points, like assist-wise. But just when it comes to the playoffs, he just didn't shoot the puck. He was always looking to pass it over to Matthews or whoever was on his line. And, like, that's great. That's awesome. But you need to be a little bit more selfish. Especially in a high key situation like that.
Whether or not it's Utah, as a lot of people are speculating, because
Seven on the ranch, Dr. Phil. God.
Like, Utah would be a good fit, right? Which, by the way, I believe it's tomorrow. They're announcing the final list of potential names. So we're getting that much closer to knowing. They were referred to as the Utah Hockey Club during the draft lottery yesterday, which I think obviously it's just a placeholder.
Yeah, just a placeholder.
There's no denying, like for Utah, you get it, a young team. You have Clayton Keller there. You get Mitch Marner, Clayton Keller, you get that more exciting style of hockey that is it conducive to the playoffs, who's to say. Like, there are options, but right now it is just pure speculation, wait and see. Because, hey, a lot of times there's an obvious move to make, and teams don't do it for one reason or another. And, I think we're all in agreement. Like, man, even if you take an L on the Mitch Marner trade, you're taking an L to get more W's down the road, to get more than 5 wins in a playoff run, which is the most you've had since 2004, So just a lot of wait and see with the Leafs, perhaps more than any other team. We always talk about it, and it's true. Like, every single team that either doesn't make the playoffs or is eliminated in the first round, you are always left with those questions of like, oh man, this could be an interesting offseason just because there's so many possibilities. The Leafs are at the forefront of that list, I think, across the league at this stage. Let's keep talking about the Eastern Conference before moving west, and we'll talk about the second round matchups because we already covered Florida eliminating Tampa, New York eliminating Washington, and I'm pretty sure we talked about Carolina eliminating the Islanders as well, if I'm not mistaken. So in terms of the second round matchups, because we just talked about the Bruins, let's talk about it now. They have a 1-0 series lead on the Florida Panthers after winning game 1 5-1, which nobody could have predicted.
You could have if you understood that Florida had so much time in between games, and the Bruins were you could argue, oh, they're tired, but they had just been locked in a tight series. So
right.
But hey, you got to win, and the Boston fucking won. So you take that. If another team's rusty, fucking take it and run.
Yeah, and I mean, they got that win with the most unlikely goal scorers
Excuse me. Mason Lohrei is an elite OFD. Did I even say his name right? Mason? It's Mason, right?
It's Mason Lohrei, yeah.
Okay.
I thought you were going to say, did I say Lohrei correctly? And you're like, no, did I say Mason correctly? This, like, the goal scorers for the Bruins, Morgan Geekie with his third of the playoffs.
Elite.
Mason Lohrei's first career playoff goal.
Franchise.
Brandon Carlo, who barely made it to the game on time because of the birth of his son.
Carlo.
Which, by the way, to the Carlos, I'm so sorry. You gave your son a tragic name.
Uh-oh.
That's a tragedy.
What is his name?
Crew
Carlo.
Hey, still better than endurance. Let's be real, boys.
Or not K. Crew.
Crew? Like, as in like a group of people?
Why though? That's interesting.
That's sorry.
That's like naming your kid Chat. Chat, is this real? Like, fuck me.
As a connoisseur of the tragedy subreddit, where people go to post all the crazy shit that people name their kid, which, by the way, includes now Hillary Duff, who now has a child named Towns. Townes. The shit people name their kids. Crew isn't the worst, but it's in the conversation. You also had Justin Brazeau's first career playoff goal, which pure power forward move, and then Jake DeBrusk, an empty netter for his fourth of the playoffs. I mean, that is the type of depth scoring that the Bruins need, right? Like, you need those guys. It can't just be Pasternak. It can't be Marchand. You need other people to be able to chip in.
Yeah.
At the same time, heading into this series, I had mentioned, like, okay, the Panthers are still heavily favored, but it kind of depends on Bobrovsky. He's the big X factor. Because even if his save percentage is low in a general sense, which it has been in the playoffs, he has that tendency to make ridiculous saves at clutch times. We saw that against Tampa in the first round. He had, if that doesn't go down as the save of the playoffs, I don't know what the hell does. Right?
Oh, that was beautiful.
But in this game, he allowed 4 goals on 28 shots because the Bruins had an empty netter. that's not the best version of Bobrovsky, and the Panthers are in a bit of trouble if they don't get that version of him, because on the other side, and the story of the playoffs for the Boston Bruins is Jeremy Swayman, who is playing some of the best hockey and performing so well at his position, really to an extent that it might be the best Bruins fans have ever seen. He had 38 saves on 39 shots against Florida in game 1, stood on his head against the Leafs, and is approaching like record territory in terms of save percentages through the first few games of his career, first dozen or so playoff games of his career. His goals against average right now is a 1.43 through 7 appearances with a 955 save percentage. I've talked a lot throughout the history of the show about Tuukka Rask and how he was thrown under the bus despite really strong performances. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, Tuukka as a goaltender overall.
By the way, if you've ever heard him speak, it is amazing. A mixture of Finnish accent with way more Boston than you'd expect ever.
Oh yeah,
it is the trippiest thing I've ever heard.
Now, see, I want to move to Finland so I can be the invert.
Oh,
but Tuukka Rask finished his career with a 921 save percentage in the regular season. In the playoffs, he had a 925.
Oh, how just an embarrassment of riches when it comes to goaltenders for Boston.
Yeah, including in the 2013 run where they lost to Chicago, he had a 940.
People blamed him too.
That's crazy. People blamed him for 17 seconds, not the team in front of him that took a nap. You have that standard of goaltending, and then obviously the biggest standard is Tim Thomas, who was the reason why the Bruins were able to break that choking label for a year in 2011 and then went right back to that theme, is because Tim Thomas in the 2011 Cup run put up a 940 save percentage in 25 appearances and had a career playoff save percentage of a 933.
It's pretty good.
Again, limited sample size for Jeremy Swayman so far, but he has a 930 career save percentage in the playoffs, including the 955 through 7 games this year. I still have a lot of doubts about this Bruins roster, as I think most people should, because you don't necessarily look at a team that has a top line on Cap Friendly as of 5 hours ago of Pavel Zacha, Morgan Geekie, and David Pasternak. You don't necessarily look at that and be like, that's the team that's going to do it. But in terms of the coaching and the goaltending, if it holds up, they can do it. But at the same time, you can't discount Florida, because if Bobrovsky starts making more saves than he should as the series goes on, and maybe even tonight in game 2, the Panthers, I would expect them to look even better. Even though they outshot the Bruins in game 1, they're going to be that much more aware. Because like you said, they went a week without playing any games. That series is far from over.
Oh, yeah.
But it might, hey, the Bruins could get gentlemen swept from here on out. Like the Panthers could win 4 straight. That is viable. I'm just happy as a Bruins fan that it's not going to be a fucking 3-game sweep for Florida where they just kick the ever-loving shit out of them.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit more optimism, but at the same time, it's still like, okay, like we'll see, just how this ends up going.
Pretty sure Bennett still hasn't touched the ice, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's a big factor.
It's gonna be a fucking nightmare when he comes back.
It always is. I mean, God, dude, that Florida team, Bennett, Cousins, Kachuk,
they're as close to an all Urukai team as we could fucking have, and everyone knows how amazing an Urukai NHL team would be.
It's a menace.
If you don't understand my reference, you do not follow Acton the Foolaman, and you should, because goddamn,
it's a great account.
It is, and I never ever would have thought to think to put an Urukai hockey team together, but holy fucking shit.
Explain. Well, okay, explain to people.
Okay, for those of you uncultured fucking swine out there who haven't seen Lord of the Rings, first of all, yeah, I don't know. I was gonna say something rude, but yeah, like, okay, so Urukai are the ultimate, like, Chad bad guys, basically. Like, if you think about it from a meme standpoint, they're the ultimate just Chad fucking bad guys who like to fight. They fight all the time. They're big, they're gritty, and they're still skilled at the same time. They're skilled and agile, and they're the best creation of the dark powers in Middle Earth. And so you think of them as a hockey team, and I even made this comment. So yeah, the closest thing we have to that is Florida right now. Who, because you think about them, they're all pieces of shit. You hate to play against them. A lot of them are pretty big. They're very physical. And that allows the other skill guys that they have to be able to just do whatever the heck they want. They don't have to mix it up because they have so many Urukai already on that roster. So that's the whole idea of that. Like, and I would even go so far as to say, like, if you want to win the cup, you got to have some fucking Urukai in your roster. And you look back at a lot of the previous winners, like even back to 2019, the Blues, they were as close as you can get to Urukai. They were swinging their fucking swords at people's heads.
Well, speaking of the topic and of people who can be described as a menace, the New York Rangers are up 2-0 on the Carolina Hurricanes after a fairly convincing Game 1 victory and then a double overtime victory in Game number 2 with Vincent Trocheck scoring the winning goal. Rough start for the Canes, especially in terms of discipline. That's been very costly to them. However, the most talked about point in regards to this series isn't necessarily the great performance of the likes of Igor Shesterkin or Mika Zibanejad or Panarin, Lafreniere. No, the biggest talking point coming out of this has to be, as he was once deemed, Jacob Trumba.
Yeah.
Look.
Flying elbow.
Look, I like physical hockey. Again, I grew up a Bruins fan. I love physical hockey. Jacob Trouba, I will give him credit. He has done such a good job of these borderline hits that by default, he has built up a fan base of protectors. I made a response, or I posted a response on Twitter to Jeff Veillette, who was questioning. The tweet was, "This missed hit would be a great case study for can you suspend somebody for a missed hit due to intent?" And my response was the white guy Trump supporter me.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's just good old fashioned hockey. If you don't like it, you little woke liberal cuck, you can find a different sport. Like,
with the quotation marks and with like the picture with like 50 different like people, like, I'm surprised no one understood that you were making a fucking joke.
They didn't?
Did people respond to it? I didn't even look. I mean, perhaps they did. No one responded to it, but
oh, they didn't?
I was baiting people to respond to it. Endo's in his own world.
Endo's just making shit up.
He is. Endo is the fake.
That's what happens
media.
when you miss the last 10 minutes of the conversation.
I was taking it. Leave me alone.
In regards to this hit, there are people who are vehemently trying to defend it. Like Jacob Trouba, fully committed to trying to blow this guy up. Right? That's just a fact. He fully committed to trying to blow Martin Necas up. And as Necas digs in to cut back and make a pass, he starts to fall. And Jacob Trouba, as he realizes he's not going to get all of Necas, whoop, that elbow comes right up as high as it possibly can. Like, there's no defending this, and the people that do are just bad faith actors at this point. Jacob Trouba is the dirtiest goddamn player in the league because he is excellent at his craft. Brad Marchand has the rat reputation because, as Sheldon Keefe even acknowledged, he is so good at what he does in terms of getting under people's skin, in terms of doing what he has to do. So that's why, as a Bruins fan, I don't get upset when I see people posting the crying Marchand meme or when I see people celebrate the fact that a referee took him down in round number 1, because it is objectively funny.
It actually was. He got fucking leveled by that ref.
Like,
Oh.
a player like Jacob Trouba, like I said, he is arguably better than anybody at walking that tightrope, because Brad Marchand has gone over the line and gotten himself suspended. Tom Wilson has gone over the line and gotten himself suspended. Jacob Trouba, that's the biggest offense. Look at his suspension history. There isn't any.
But he should have.
That's the point, right? Is people, especially when it comes to someone like Jacob Trouba, will sit there and be like, oh, the officiating sucks. The DOPS sucks. The inconsistency of it all, it sucks. And then someone will be like, hey, Jacob Trouba should be suspended. Whoa. Check the disciplinary history. You can't have it both ways. You try to, and it makes you look foolish, but you can't have it both ways. The bottom line is he is the best player in the league at making borderline hits. But in an instance like this, he is caught in fucking 4K. I have someone on Twitter right now trying to be like, he doesn't bring his elbow up until he realizes he's going to hit the boards. He only brought his elbow up to protect him, because that's how arms work. Elbow up and then wrist out to protect from the board, not just arms straight out to protect. The elbow, you can, put your arms in front of you right now. Remember, to do it the right way, it's elbows out and then up.
That doesn't happen. Like your instinct is just forward.
Yeah, wax on, wax off, guys. Come on.
Just batshit insane people is the only way to put it. And literally, here, let me. I have the clip here in terms of this hit. And again, it's Martin Necas skating with the puck. He cuts back, sees Trouba coming, starts to slip. There's a lot of knee-on-knee contact there as well, which sends Trouba nearly face first into the boards, which, LOL. I mean, I'm glad the guy is not seriously hurt. He does then kick Necas in the back of the fucking head with his right skate as he comes down, which, if I'm shocked news hasn't come out about Necas having a fucking concussion. But the different angle here is you can see Necas digging in, and watch Trouba. Watch that fucking elbow come up. You can't tell me he's not trying to make any contact. He can. And then he'll bring his arms forward to try and protect him. The whole idea of, he brought his elbow up to try and help break his fall against no, because he extends his arm afterwards to propel himself away from the boards, and then again, fucking kicks Necas right in the back of the fucking head. People are out of their fucking minds, is the only thing I can think to say. People are out of their goddamn fucking minds when it comes to trying to defend this guy.
Yeah.
I got that. That was my own mini rant. Endo had his about the Leafs. In regards to the 2 series, again, Boston, Florida is going to be a battle. Carolina is in a good amount of trouble right now, down 2-0 to the Rangers. You're talking about a team that is, the last 3 times they've made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, they haven't won a game. There's a lot of conversation about Rod Brind'Amour. Man, if they lose this series, God forbid they get swept, I wonder if there's a conversation about the future for Rod Brind'Amour.
I think it's silly to get rid of him, but yeah.
It's that conversation
get rid of him so I could have him.
It's that conversation of, does a coach deserve to be fired if they're good? And then, I saw one of Steve Dangle's videos about Sheldon Keefe, and it's like, look, you can be a good coach, but eventually you can hit the limit of what you're able to teach these guys.
Problem is, Sheldon Keefe is not that good of a coach. Sorry,
hey,
I don't want to get back on that topic, but no, I understand. I understand the sentiment, though. I just had to get that shot in, and I just feel like he's been outcoached in every single fucking playoff series he's ever been in. I
mean, when you have a quote that's literally the other teams, They play to what was it? What the Chief? That fucking Chief.
They set the game up in a way to where the Leafs beat themselves.
Yeah,
Which
and your
technically is
job
true, I
as a
guess, but your job
coach-
is to yeah.
Yeah, and your job as a coach is to get your team to follow your system and have them buy in. If your teammates are, if your players aren't buying in, you're not going to win anything. Regular season, you can be completely fine, but just when it comes down to the playoffs, that's when everyone buys in. That's when you have players. Oh, Sin almost fell. That's when you have players, you know, just buy into the system. Like I think the peak one to me was Seattle's run last year. Every single player on that team had a point, and they played 2 rounds. So roughly, I think they played like 14 games. Every single player had at least 1 point. You had depth scoring. You had top players scoring. You had everything, except for goaltending. But you know what? We're talking about the players, not the goalies. The goalie thing is another thing entirely, because you and I had a brief discussion about Samsonov's play on that goal.
Mm-hmm.
When a situation like that happens, when you're a goaltender and the puck's coming to you over there, I'll be really quick with it. You have to act. You can't sit there on the line and freeze. You can say, "Oh, it's coaching, whatever is this? Is he has to stay on the line?" No. In that situation, you have to either play the puck or follow with the puck. He got caught sleeping, and then the game was over. Also, that first goal they scored like in a minute 21 after the Leafs scored to tie the game up, that was a wrist shot, just like when Pasternak scored the other one, like from like the outside face-off circle on the right side of him in like game 6, where you just let it right off the wrist, right off the shoulder, went in. Same thing. Those are shots as a goaltender you have to have regardless. Doesn't matter. Uncontested. Could be off of anything whatsoever. Uncontested shot, you have to make the first save. At least the first save.
Moving over to the western side of the bracket. I want to start off. The Oilers eliminated the Kings in 5 games.
Yeah.
For the LA Kings, the big conversation was, what are they going to do now? And the answer is not much. Rob Blake is going to remain as the GM of the team. They are going to decide what happens head coaching wise, whether or not they're going to move away from the 1-3-1 that has been so controversial. At the same time as well, they have also confirmed that they will not be buying out Pierre-Luc Dubois. There was a lot of conversation over that, because if they were to do it before his 26th birthday, it would be a 1/3 buyout instead of a 2/3, saving them money long term, but resulting in him having a cap hit on the team for 14 years. They have elected to not buy him out and to try and fix the situation. Good luck is pretty much all I can say in regards to that, because it has been a rough couple of years for Pierre-Luc Dubois, from Columbus to Winnipeg. Is he going to Montreal? No, he goes to the LA, and then it's been a time.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if they make a trade. Montreal makes a trade for Dubois.
It's not going to happen on that cap hit. There's just no way.
I would be extremely surprised if they're stupid enough to do that.
Especially with how well they've done otherwise.
Yeah.
Like, that is just such a hefty contract to take on. So, but who knows? Maybe
Got cap space.
Just because you have cap space doesn't mean you should use it. You as a Leafs fan should know that.
I want them. I don't want peace. I want problems always.
The Vancouver Canucks made it past the Nashville Predators in 6 games, a series that, I'm sorry, but to me, Nashville fucking blew it. This was a winnable series for them, especially dating back to the collapse and the missed empty netter and then losing in overtime. They had a realistic shot at winning the series, especially with Vancouver being down to their 3rd-string goaltender. I said heading into the series that I was choosing Nashville because I thought Vancouver had a lot to prove. They did win this series, but I'm still not convinced at the Canucks being legitimate contenders. Out of the 8 remaining playoff teams, they are the ones I would be surprised by the most should they win the Stanley Cup this year. It's a huge series for them against Edmonton. You beat Edmonton, I buy that you're legit. But until then, especially with Siloff still being the starter, I'm on the Oilers' side for that particular series.
100%, especially with the way Skinner played.
Yeah,
and
I mean, he shut things down.
Best player in the world. Series. Like, I don't know if the Canucks have enough defense to deal with that. I think their good defense in Nashville was more a symptom of Nashville having weak offense. But we'll see. I could be proven wrong.
I won't be upset if the
I want to see Tyler Myers try to keep up with Connor McDavid.
I won't be upset if the Canucks win. Beyond the base level of like, oh God, the Oilers fucking blew it again, and Connor McDavid, can we please get him back to a conference final? But yeah, I mean, there are some questions about this Canucks team for sure. I mean, even beyond this season, like you're talking out of their 8 defensemen listed on roster right now, only 3 of them are signed next year. Myers, Zadorov, Cole, and Friedman are all UFAs, and Philip Ronnick's an RFA. So, I mean, it's a really interesting time for them because I think they're finding a little bit more success than anybody expected. So that's a really interesting series.
Yeah.
Colorado knocked out Winnipeg in 5 after winning 4 straight games. Incredibly disappointing end to the Jets season. Connor Hellebuck was, even though he might win the Vezina, was fucking horrific.
Yeah, he was atrocious.
And that's a team that's also going to undergo changes because head coach Rick Bowness announced that he is retiring. And we've talked about Rick Bowness's history in the NHL. I mean, the guy turned 69 years old this year. His first job in the NHL was with the Winnipeg Jets as an assistant coach in 1984-85.
The first Jets.
Like, he went on to he was a temporary head coach for the Jets. Then he was the head coach for the Maine Mariners of the AHL for 2 years, head coach of the Bruins for a year.
Didn't he do the Senators expansion team?
He was the head coach of the expansion Senators.
Wow.
Went to the Islanders, was head coach there. Went to the Coyotes, was an assistant and temporary head coach.
Well, he
was an
loves
assistant
hockey.
coach with the Canucks at their peak. When the post-lockout up to their kind of fumbling, and here's John Tortorella and all of that. Just an incredible career in hockey.
Coached Dallas for a bit.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Just before the pandemic. Dude, those into the pandemic years are
a blur, right?
Well, I mean, Jesus Christ. Like last night you were like, yeah, 3-on-3 overtime was 2015-16. I'm like, that can't possibly be true. And it is. So it's just it's bizarre, but that's a big loss for the Jets. And again, we kind of talked about the tumultuous nature for them of, all right, Wheeler's gone. We're probably going to get rid of Scheifele and Hellebuck. Never mind. We're keeping them. Oh, shit, we're good. Oh, fuck, we got pooped on by the Avs. As I said, every team, you can argue it's an interesting offseason, but for the Jets especially, it's like, what the fuck are they going to be moving forward?
Yeah, because we all were like congratulating them. You know, they went all in. They said, we're committing to Scheifele, we're committing to Hellebuck. And they were rewarded in the regular season, but then they fell far, far short of any expectation.
And in the final first round matchup, the Dallas Stars win in 7 games over the Vegas Golden Knights.
It was 2-0 Vegas. What happened? Get fucked.
We get to start today with Sin celebrating, and we get to end today with Sin celebrating.
LTIR merchants get shit on.
Now, I had a perspective on this.
Yeah, I know. You wanted them to win just so more teams would abuse the LTIR. But not every team has a man that goes down mid-season and stays out to the playoffs, Tougie. Nor do they have that same man making like 8 or 9 mil.
My thought was...
wouldn't it be a massive like violation of like the NHL and NHLPA rights? And wouldn't this open an entire loophole if the medical team were lying about someone going down?
So, I don't think it's lying, right?
They're not lying. He's injured, but then he just waits longer or he comes back earlier. That's what it is.
So in the past, players would play through this. Mark Stone would have kept playing until he severely fucked himself up and then would have been deemed out for the year. That's what players did. Now teams have been more wise to the idea of, we can sit you out for an injury you could play through and would be willing to play through. But we can now sit you out, get extra reinforcements, have you come back for the playoffs, and the cap isn't a factor, so we have that much better of a chance. Teams got wise to this a decade ago or so, right? Like, it was utilized by Chicago in 2015. The Lightning utilized this during their back-to-back run. It's a successful move by successful teams. I mean, Vegas obviously were the defending Stanley Cup champions. And again, I can't help but wonder, because it might be recency bias, but it felt like this year more than any other, there was attention on this loophole because of Mark Stone specifically. Like, I don't think the spotlight had ever been brighter. And for them to lose in round one, it just makes me wonder if some of that attention goes away. And if they had won, if the conversation would have been that much more to the forefront. The main reason why I want to see the loophole changed is not because I'm mad at the Vegas Golden Knights or anything like that. It's because I'm fucking tired of the conversation. I am so sick and tired every season of having to hear, how hard is Mark Stone actually? This team's essentially I'm sick of it. Either close the loophole or change the way shit works. I don't care. I'm just tired of the conversation as it currently exists. It has reached the standpoint of talking about officiating and the Department of Player Safety for me, where I'm fucking sick of it. I don't want to talk about it. It's reached the point where it's, the fucking, like, I think of the big three for the NHL of shit that I'm just tired of discussing. I am tired of discussing the DOPS and refereeing. I am tired of discussing the cap hole loophole, and or as people call them, the cap circumcisers. And I am sick and tired of debating whether or not Chicago should change their fucking logo. They should fucking deal with it.
Hey, at least we get to never talk about the Coyote Arena deal again. For now, I guess.
Yeah, I guess we don't have to talk about that for a while.
We got rid of one horrible narrative.
Christ, yeah, I don't know. So, anyway, Vegas is out. The hockey world rejoices. It sets up Colorado and Dallas in round two. They played game one last night.
Fucking Dallas.
Dallas was up big and fucking choked.
Yeah, there's no other way to put it.
I was trying to think of a way to phrase it. There's no other way to put it. They fucking choked, and that is a dangerous Colorado team to give that level of momentum to.
And here's the thing that screwed me up the most is, like, I just assumed because they had a 4-goal comeback late, I'm like, oh, they must be in Colorado. Like, the altitude got to them. Nope. They're in Dallas. Unacceptable. Can't happen.
Yeah, I mean, there's no other way to put it. I mean, that is absolutely the type of loss that can lose you such valuable momentum that you want to say you might not be able to recover from. Dallas, of course, just came back from a 2-0 deficit. So, you never say never. But yeah, to be up 3-0 at the end of the first period and then to lose in overtime 4-3 in front of your home crowd, that's really tough to battle back from. And for as much as people are like, okay, Dallas is legit, dude, shots on goal, they outshot them 9-5 in the first period. Colorado then outshot Dallas 11-3 in the second, 6-4 in the third, and then Dallas outshot them 6-4 in overtime. Like, they took their foot off the gas after that first period, and it's like, did you expect Colorado? Nathan McKinnon and the boys to just, like, of any team in the NHL in the playoffs that I'm like, you can never expect them to give up. It's Colorado.
Yeah. Like,
who the hell was it that told Georgiev to shut up or I'll kill you?
Rantanen.
Like, you have a guy telling his own goalie, shut the fuck up or I'll kill you during a playoff game. like that is a team that, man, they talk about full 60. You need to do a full 24 hours. You need to get the best rest you can, the best training in that you can, the best preparation that you can. Like, that is just a team that is so mentally fucking strong that, I don't know, like this is, you know, the time where it's like, okay, it kind of makes or breaks Dallas right now. Like, everyone's talking about, okay, you're a legit contender. Let's see you come back from a slip up like this.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, do you have anything else to add in regards to the playoffs? I mean, I feel like we were...
Yeah, Nathan McKinnon also told his coach to shut up and just and do your job. So, I mean, like...
That is the type of player where if you haven't won shit, you are incredibly toxic.
Mm-hmm.
Nathan McKinnon's earned the right to tell the coach to fuck off, basically.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do? What are you going to argue with Nathan McKinnon at this point? So,
God, he's so good. He's number 2 player in the world, in my opinion.
the last thing I wanted to mention, aside from the Stanley Cup playoffs, is the start of the PWHL playoffs. We got to the Final Four at the end of the regular season, with Toronto being the number 1 seed. And again, with their playoff format, they were able to select their opponent.
That's cool.
And they did elect to go with Minnesota. That series starts tonight. Tomorrow night, Montreal and Boston.
Nice.
Because of course.
Hey, maybe Toronto can win something, man.
Maybe. I mean, dude, so their team this year was fantastic.
Is Spooner on that team or
so PWHL Toronto this year, I'm trying to get up the statistics on the site. Where the hell are there? Stats. There we go. It was at the very top. Imagine that. So Toronto this year was led in scoring by Natalie Spooner. Yeah. Who led the league in points, 27 points in 24 games with 20 goals.
Jesus.
Her teammate tied for second in scoring in the league, Sarah Nurse. That Toronto team was
pretty stacked.
Was pretty fucking stacked.
Like, those are a couple of the 2 biggest names in hockey, obviously, not counting, Poulin.
Yeah, so I mean, Toronto, you got them led by Natalie Spooner, Sarah Nurse, going up against Minnesota. Kendall Coyne-Schofield on that team, the first overall pick, and Taylor Hasey, I believe it was. I always look at her name and I just blank on how to say it properly. And then their leading scorer was Grace Zoomwinkle, who was the first to score a hat trick in the league.
What a fucking name, dude.
Oh, Grace Zoomwinkle's a tremendous name.
That is brilliant. I love it.
And then Montreal and Boston. Montreal led by Poulin, which, yeah, she is going to continue to be a problem. Boston's leading scorer this year was Alina Muller. They got Megan Keller on that team, Hillary Knight. So, in the way that it shaped up, the 2 teams that missed the playoffs were New York, and obviously you had, some names on New York and Ottawa as well that missed the playoffs. But the way the league is shaped up right now, like, you were pretty much guaranteed to have familiar names to the women's game, major names in the playoffs, and I'm excited for this, man. And at Toronto tonight, against Minnesota for game 1, my understanding was that they were basically sold out. And yeah, Ticketmaster is showing standing room only seating available at this stage.
So the best part about that is that they are at the Coca-Cola Coliseum, formerly known as Ricoh Coliseum, where the Toronto Marlies play. It seats 80, I think it's 8,100 or 8,140 inside there. That is assumedly going to be their home for next season. I don't think they're going to be at Mattamy because that seats like 2,100, and those tickets are super hard to get. Like,
That's
it
honestly
is
pretty
impossible.
incredible that they're already moving into like AHL arenas for women's hockey, which in this iteration has only been around for a season now.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
I mean, hockey itself in Toronto is going to sell out 100%. And I'm glad that like a product now that has support like the PWHL is doing well, because the NHL was supporting them in a way. The executives are supporting them. I have yet to go to a game. The game's tonight, and I wanted to get tickets, but it's full. It gets sold out right now. I want to get tickets for Friday's game, but instead I'm going to the I'm going to the Jays game. So oh well, maybe I won't even get a chance to see them play this season. I have to wait till next season. Who knows?
For the PWHL, it's been arguably the best inaugural season you could have asked for. An article from ABC News had their total regular season attendance at a combined 392,259 fans. That's over the course of 72 games. So their average attendance across the league was 5,400 per game, which is fucking outstanding, including the record crowd at Bell Center for a Montreal-Toronto game that had over 21,000 people. I don't think they could have asked for a better initial start to this league. And hopefully that positive momentum continues as things go on. I know that there was talk of, okay, maybe, expansion doesn't happen immediately. And I kind of like that they're not immediately going like, yes, expansion has to happen immediately, because no, right? Like, you can take your time and let this continue to build up in a sustained way. Like, they broke the attendance record for a women's game 6 different times throughout the season,
It's huge, yeah.
And even like in February, midway through the season, they were still averaging 5,000 fans. So it's not like attendance started off hot and then dipped. They were consistent. So I give them credit for that. With that, everybody, we will look to wind things down for today. We want to thank you for tuning in. Of course, as always, we will be back hopefully shortly. Maybe it's Endo's turn for COVID or bronchitis.
Are you kidding me? I'm the one who had it first.
Oh, that's right. You did. You did have it first.
Yeah.
Your turn again, buddy. It's a big circle.
I went on a bender, got shit-faced, and then just for November for that kegger that we had, and then got sick, and then had COVID, and then I got shit, got COVID. It was not great. Yeah. So it's not my turn, but you know what it is? My turn for us to play games again and me possibly the stream. That's it. Yeah, cool. Thank you. That's it. That's my plug.
Sin, what do you got going on?
Well, now that my voice is nearly back to normal, I can finally start making videos again. Finally launch the new fucking series that I've been sitting on. Both of them.
Fair enough. Because of course, I think we're looking at starting a new journey for the next couple of weeks. Some NHL Legacy Edition, as long as my PC wants to cooperate. Which
that was heartbreaking last night.
We still won the game.
I love the format, and I hope you guys do too, because I spent a lot of time brainstorming on that. I think it's cool just to get multiple years done with gameplay in between.
So with that, everybody, thank you again for tuning in. We will see you all very soon. Macklin Sharkabrini. Shark.
Shark.
Thanks, Endo, for joining in.